Hey, I'm here to tell you about Rabbit Hole Derringer. That's Kentucky straight bourbon finished in PX sherry casks. If you've never had this stuff, you are missing out. I've spoken pretty highly about Rabbit Hole for quite a long time now. They have 4 different expressions, and this one is by far one of my favorite. What makes Rabbit Hole special is they view bourbon as an artistic expression. Each of their original works of bourbon are made from one-of-a-kind mash bill recipes, specially malted grains. Every Rabbit Hole expression is aged in both charred and toasted barrels. A lot of people say they do both. They don't do both. And Derringer Rabbit Hole's award-winning finished bourbon for this expression. They've taken their fine wheated bourbon and aged it again in Pedro Jimenez sherry cask from España. And this aromas of caramel and cherry, we're going to lure you in with dried fruit and sweet wine to fall in love with at the end of the night. It is so very good. It won the double gold prestigious San Francisco Spirits Award and was named one of the 25 best bourbons of the 21st century by Rob Report. So I got to tell you, you got to try some Rabbit Hole. And if you want to pick up a bottle, you should go to rabbitholedistillery.com/drizzly and take $5 off your first order with promo code RABBIT. And once again, to find it in your area, go to rabbitholedistillery.com and you can look up a locator to find where to have a bottle in your area. Come drink responsibly and jump down the rabbit hole with me. What up, Whiskey Ginger fans? Welcome back to the show. If it's the first time joining the show, welcome to the show. Like I always say, like it, subscribe it, tell a friend, do all those great things to spread this Whisk Ginge word. My guest this week is Jimmy Carr, one of the greatest of all time. British invasion here from down under in Melbourne, Australia, where I'm shooting a movie. We put up all the Bad Friends dates. I, myself, am not touring, but the Bad Friends dates are all available at badfriendspod.com. Go see me and Bobby Lee on tour right now. Pick up those tickets. Enough rambling from me. Let's go to the episode.
In here, we pour whisk, 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 whisk.
You were that creature in the ginger beard.
Sturdy and ginger.
Like vampires, the ginger gene is a curse.
Gingers are beautiful.
You owe me $5 for the whiskey and $75 for the horse.
Gingers? Oh, hell no.
This whiskey is excellent.
Ginger. I like gingers.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Whiskey Ginger. My guest today is one of my favorite people on earth. I say that for all my guests, but I mean it once again today. It is the incomparable, incomparable, as we would say here, Jimmy Carr.
Well, it's very nice to be here. I mean, in this soulless space, but it's nice to be here with you.
Well, I told them to clear it out. This was a full family lived here, and I said, clear it out because I've got the big JC coming in. The second coming, as it were.
You made the right decision.
That's right. I brought you some special stuff. I know you have 2 shows tonight, but I don't really care. I want you to sip on a little bit. This is Colonel Taylor. Do you know what this is, E.H. Taylor?
Yeah. I'll tell you who turned me onto this. Ralphie May.
We can't have this. Is this what killed him?
No, not what killed him.
Oh.
But he was the one that recommended this to me. He said, get this because you can't get Pappy Van Winkle for Love Nor Money. But you can kind of get this. Isn't it the same guys that do this?
Correct. Yeah, it's the same. It's from root of the same distillery. Same people that do Buffalo Trace, Blanton's, Eagle Rare.
This is the
daddy. This was an actual man who was kind of, they call him he's like the godfather of bourbon, so to speak. He's like one of the originals that settled in the land in Kentucky. This is his sauce. This was like his recipes, his sauce. So, yes, you say. How about this? You say when.
Okay. What do we got, an hour? All right, when? I'll sit.
Okay, we'll refill. And hold on 1 second.
All right, this is...
Let me cheers you. Just a little bit of sauce. Cheers. Look
Cheers.
me in the eye. Very good. You must look me in the eye.
Of course.
Same thing we did at the hotel before this.
He doesn't mean like that.
Yes, I do. Oh, phenomenal. Phenomenal. Right?
That really is something, isn't it?
It's good.
Very sort of... The caramel there. Oh, it's wonderful. Do you drink... Whiskey Max. I mean, your show is called Whiskey
Ginger, yeah.
I love a Stone's ginger wine and scotch. The Whiskey Max, like classic Christmas drink.
You like that?
I love that.
I don't know why. I don't know. I cannot.
Not your thing?
The only way I usually consume bourbon, whiskey, whatever variation of whiskey, rye, I'm almost always straight up, nothing else.
No ice, no nothing.
No, but I'm okay with ice sometimes. I asked a master distiller once, what's the most proper way? Because he'd been doing it for 35 years. I said, what's the most proper way to have it? And he goes, how do you like it? I said, well, I kind of prefer it neat. And he goes, that's the way.
Yeah.
I said, oh, so I was right. He said, no, stupid. It's whatever you want. There is no such thing. These are all wives' tales of people going, oh, you're supposed to have it this way. You should.
Tip on drinking whiskey from my physio, who just said to me, you don't drink whiskey. Put it in your mouth, let it evaporate.
Oh, well,
just put it in there. Just let it, put it on your tongue and let it just be there.
Slowly.
Just let it, the ambience of it, the whole thing, the flavor of it. But people drinking it like it's a pint of beer, what are you doing?
Well, chugging it is different. Slowly sipping it, I think, is the move. I think you slowly sip over time. Also, what it does, and I found on the show, is it would get people to kind of loosen up, but also it opens up all these little portals in your brain of memory. I feel like whiskey is memory sauce for me for some reason.
There's something about different kinds of booze, right?
That do different tricks.
Gin makes people cry.
Yeah. I just had a flashback of me crying on gin. A gimlet, I'm going to pour my heart out to you for some reason.
Right, that's a different show you should do. just gimlets, and it's just you interviewing
Gin tears?
Just important women in your life. It's going to be incredible.
Tears of a gin man. What my first, the first thing I think about when I have a sip of whiskey every single time is my grandfather, who loved Manhattans. Loved Manhattans.
Oh, I love a Manhattan. I like those. I mean, apparently the Manhattan, all that kind of, the popularity of those drinks was all from Prohibition, because the booze was so bad in America that you had to dress it up with sugar. So all of those classic cocktails come from that era, like the Old Fashions and the Manhattans were from Prohibition, where you went, we can't serve this to people, can we? It's not anything. It's terps. So we're going to dress it up with sugar and cherries.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that. So they made it, that's why they threw in all that other jazz to go, well, it's a good drink though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is delicious. Am I right?
Yeah, and then people go, I think that's what I think.
I can't believe Prohibition happened. My friend Jesse had a great idea for a movie about like the weekend before Prohibition happened.
Yeah.
When they were bringing the law on a Monday and some guys turned 21 on the Saturday. It's a great idea for a movie. Like you go, what would you have done if they said, oh, you can never have another drink? Like, people weren't going overseas back then. No, booze it's gone. It's going to be illegal. We're not having booze anymore. What must that weekend have been like?
Either complete and utter chaos or total normalcy, and you just thought, well, I guess that's over and that's done. As a booze drinker, I mean, I would have been, I know who I was.
I mean, never mind New Year's Eve. If they said, okay, no, we're not in business. The bar's open Sunday night, and on Monday, we're illegal.
What do you do? Which guy are you? I'm the guy who's plotting and scheming illegal plans to make sure I can secure as much alcohol for the impending Armageddon. I'm that guy.
Oh,
Who are you?
I'm rolling with Al Capone going, there is money to be made here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because the other thing that it gave us was crime. It gave us like organized crime at that level.
Organized.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part about it. This wasn't just chaos of crime. It was, they were specific about their crime. I did like it. When I played the Chicago Theater, they showed me Al Capone's booth. If you ever go there, if you're looking from the stage, it's top right. And the reason it was that close to the door is it's closest to the street because there were back exits that he could get out of if police or someone came to attack him. It was organized.
You've reminded me of two stories. The first one is another Prohibition story, which is the Indy 500. This is an idea I had for a movie, which I thought, wouldn't it be great to do the origination of muscle cars, American muscle cars? And where they come from is the distillers of booze, moonshines in the South. So they were in an arms race with the police.
Right.
So the police were like, we've got to stop these guys from bootlegging. And the bootleggers were like, whoa, we just need to go faster than you in our cars. So the cars got steadily faster and faster. Right. And a lot of those original kind of family garages then became the kind of, the chop shops where, you put together these race cars.
Yeah.
And the teams.
It's beautiful.
Kind of interesting, right?
It's very interesting.
The idea that those humans. I did a thing recently. I did a gig. It was at the Netflix is a Joke festival in LA. I was playing downtown, and I'd not really been to. I've been to LA many, many times. Not been to downtown LA, but your Al Capone booth reminds me of this. So I was on stage, and the theater. I can't get over how beautiful the theater is. It's like, and it looks more like New York than New York.
Yeah,
downtown LA. You go, oh, this is where they should be filming Spider-Man. This is unbelievably beautiful. Yeah. I'm in the theater. They've redone the theater, and it's got 3 levels. They've only done 2 of the levels. They haven't redone the top level. And I was kind of on stage going, well, why haven't you done that? And they went, oh, this used to be segregated. It's a listed building because it's so beautiful and old, but the entrance to that bit was from the back alley. Anyone brown or black had to come in the back alley, so there's no way of getting stairs up to that from the main hall. So we just don't use it. And then I was blown away by the place, like the history of it, and like slightly creepy, thinking, wow, that's recent history.
Yeah.
And they said, this is, you're standing on a trapdoor. I was standing on Houdini's trapdoor.
No.
It was like something from The Prestige. I was on the trapdoor, and the guy went, "You're on Houdini's trapdoor," and you kind of look down. And they've got a crank downstairs where he was cranked up and down. It wasn't real magic, everyone.
To be the cranker.
I mean, extraordinary. Those kind of end up in these places where you get to see these things.
We fall face first into it, especially when you speak to stagehands on theaters, right? I don't know if I'm at liberty to say, but there's a couple of stories of famously. Maybe the audience can guess. A stagehand told me, and I'm not going to say what city it was in. They can put all these pieces together. Stagehand said one of the toughest guests we've ever had was this performer, this gentleman. And he walked in, and he said, "It's shit, but I'll need a catwalk." And they said, "A catwalk?" He said, "I'll need a catwalk." Where? Where did the catwalk go? Well, this is a stage, and there's chairs, and those are, you can't. And he said, "Well, I guess I'll just leave town then." And left and decided the gigs are going to be canceled. Fuck it, unless this person has built a catwalk. And sure enough, 2 days later, the catwalk was built. And did the person use the catwalk the entire performance? No.
Bobby Lee. Bobby Lee did this.
He's such a brat. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Because traditional Korean fare is to catwalk.
Those insane demands as well. That, like the famous the Bon Jovi Brown M&M story is the one that people go to.
Right.
You know what the story behind the story was on that, right?
No.
So the story behind the story was that the story everyone knows is they insisted on one of the items on their rider list was we'll have a brandy glass full of brown M&Ms in the dressing room. And what it actually, and it sounds like just a ludicrous, like, oh, rock stars just, I want everything my way, a very sort of diva-ish request. What it was Bon Jovi's light and sound tech was so tough, it was such a detailed rider, that what they used to do is they would arrive at like 3 PM, walk in. If they saw a brandy glass full of brown M&Ms, John Bon Jovi would go to sleep. He'd go and sleep for 2 hours because he would know, oh, they've read everything. And these guys have paid attention. Right. And if there was some trail mix in a mug, he would go, the brown M&Ms, and they go, then he would go, okay, we have to go through everything.
It's attention.
We have to go to work. So he would know, that would be his signifier for, we can relax now. These guys have got this. They're pros.
It's really interesting. Because they were really actually paying attention.
As opposed to a ludicrous backstage, I'll need to be knee deep in hookers and gin or whatever.
Which is what your tour is usually consisting of.
Of course.
Yeah.
What's the great tour? The great actor story, like of like big drinkers. Richard Harris. You know Richard Harris? He's a great Irish actor, and he was drinking in the coal hole. I knew him a little bit before he died. He was drinking in the coal hole in the Strand. This was in the height of his fame, and his he was an incredible stage actor. I mean, did a lot of great movies, but incredible stage actor. And he was with a friend drinking very heavily, and he's chatting to the friend. He's with the theatre. We should go to the theatre. We should support the theatre more with theatre men. He goes, yeah, no, we should. There's a matinee. Let's go. So he goes to the matinee. There's a Shakespeare performance on at the thing. He sat there, buy a ticket, and they're watching it. And he nudges his friend and goes, this is good. This is where I come on.
That's so great.
So fucking drunk.
That's so great.
So drunk for so many years.
But how wonderful. That was his disposition, was like, well, this is my life. I get to be the puppeteer of this own thing. I own all this. Yeah, it's beautiful. When you said the sleep thing, you reminded me, my buddy did that Wolf of Wall Street, and he said, Scorsese's particular about rest. And the whole deal was a production assistant was allowed, he would take naps, and they'd be shooting sometimes often night shoots. And he said a production assistant would rap on the door twice, bup, bup. And if Marty didn't immediately answer, it meant you had to just wait until he would wake up. And he said sometimes it was an hour, sometimes it was 3 hours, because Marty needed his nap. So they weren't allowed to touch it. They weren't allowed to go, we're going to lose. No, Marty, we gotta. So he would go take it. He would just leave in the middle of filming.
Imagine if we were that funny.
to just be able to take naps.
We're not that funny. We can't. I mean, there's no way we could pull that shit. People go, we're going to get someone else.
Yeah, you're
going to find someone else to do. Even this podcast, they would take from you if you acted like that.
Right away from me. They just changed some guy's head inside of there.
Yeah, there's other guys that look like this. Have you been to the west coast of Ireland? 10 a penny. There's a lot of it about.
Yeah, how quickly we'd be replaced for something like that.
That's interesting, that level of fame where, like, at what level can you pull that shit?
See, I think it's not just fame, though. It's what made you famous, right? Like you said, you're a very, very famous comedian. You still know better because as a comic, there's that looming thing of, well, there's so many other comedians that are ready to do this thing. Yeah. So it depends on what you're famous for.
But also, I mean, being a comic, there's a sort of a level of self-awareness.
You have to have it.
Yeah, slightly, yeah.
Yeah.
But I kind of like that showbiz thing of like the craziest things that people are pulling, and just it becomes normalized.
And the threat of being replaced is really harmful. When somebody's like, lets you know. There's a story about a producer that went up to this great actress. At the time, she didn't want to be a part of this film because she didn't want to kiss her partner in the scene. And the producer walked up to her and said 2 words. Kim Basinger, and left. And within moments, that actress was back on set doing the thing because she was about to be very famous at the time. And Kim Basinger was massive. Right. So just 2 names, just two words just to say there's someone else. But if you wanted...
I don't know, though, because I think, like, with comedy, like, it's an interesting point we're talking about, but that idea with, like, the thing I love about comedy, Alan Havey's got a great line on it, where he says, we're out for ourselves, but in it together.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel there's much competition in comedy. Maybe a little bit early on trying to get on spots and things. But once you have your voice and you do what you do, it's so different to what other people do. The other people that you like are doing something that's, really very particular.
Once you're established, I totally agree. Yeah. You are your own entity. Only you can stop your own career, truly. Once you've gathered an audience, once you've kind of, cultivated your voice or your style or whatever that is, I agree. Competition is, you are your only competition. It's like, well, how much more do I want to continue? What do I want to be what's my growth look like? It's less so, Carr's here.
Of course, you've got that thing as well that you talked about on the special about not wanting a legacy, which it's an excellent trick.
Yeah.
It's an excellent trick because you go, well, wanting a legacy just kind of, you make the wrong choices for you.
Yeah.
And people want a legacy. You go, no, comedy rots.
Yeah.
When did you last watch a comedy movie from the 1920s?
You popping that in?
It's a while ago. Yeah. A while ago, isn't it? And they got big laughs at the time.
Yeah.
But it rots. That's fine.
Well, I think what I truly meant in that was I've never been fascinated with the idea that I think it's interesting to think I want as many people to know me while I'm here. That is the self-indulgence. As a comedian and performer, you're like, well, I want everybody to see me. Look at my magic trick. Look at me. Look at me. But when I go...
You watched it back. Is that a good idea?
Is that a very good idea?
I'm kidding.
Very good. I think it's...
Sure you want people to see that?
Yeah,
I saw it, but I don't think it's for everyone.
I think once you go, I'm okay with it not being cemented. They're going to tear down your statue anyway.
I mean, not to get philosophical, but we're drinking whiskey. Why not?
Please.
I think fame has replaced heaven in a secular world. People think fame is the land of milk and honey. And to an extent it is, from where I'm calling, it's great. But it's almost like that thing of people want to be famous and to be known. And that's an immortality that we've lost.
Right.
Because it used to be the promise of religion that, live well now for the next life.
Yeah. You think fame is what is the...
Fame is heaven.
Yeah.
Fame is heaven if I was famous, everything would be okay. If I go to heaven, everything's okay. It's the land of milk and honey.
And how is it being famous?
It's pretty good, I gotta say. I gotta say, it's pretty good.
You have the same. Your problems are just different. That's all.
My theory is it's kind of a natural way to be because we're designed for the longest period of our evolution to live in tribes of 60 to 80. So meeting a stranger would have been the unusual thing. Mm. That would have been I saw a guy that I didn't know who wasn't from our tribe. That would be the unusual thing. And now we're living quite alienated lives where we're kind of hermetically sealed. And why are things like this so popular? Because people want conversation.
Yeah.
They just want to be with other people and chatting. And at the end of the day, so many people are kind of, are on their own, kind of hermetically sealed.
Watching other people talk.
Yeah.
But specifically because you've created something outside of this. So people are like, I want to know what you are on the other side of that. This is another window into the world that is heaven, quote unquote. It's like we're a trap door.
Yeah.
Podcasts are like a trap door to heaven. We're like the secret little entrance of like,
It is a weird thing of like what we do, like is there's a byproduct of what we do for a living, and the little tribe that we joined, and we joined the comedy tribe, and it's a great tribe. Anyone watching this that's super into comedy that wants to try comedy, I always say, do it. Try 5 minutes. It makes all the comedy you ever see better. So we join that little tribe, and then we kind of we get on with all the other comics, and we roll along quite nicely. It doesn't feel to me like there's a massive competition that we have.
No, well, it's also, again, it's because your status, right? Though when you're young, it is way more difficult, and you're way more catty and way more jealous and judgmental because you're searching for the reasons that you aren't. And I think that parallels every other universe. Same thing in business settings and school settings, and as a youth too. It's the same thing as a child. We've carried it over into our literal career. It's individualized competition until you achieve a little bit, even on a little bit, and then you go, oh right, if I just focus more on my footwork, I won't have to worry about how other people are dancing.
The idea as well that I think when you start out in comedy, you're sometimes like blown away, like really upset by someone doing incredibly well, and you can't see what the value is. Mm-hmm. You can't see what they're doing. You can't see why that's appealing, because you go, well, they don't have jokes, but then they're incredibly charming, incredibly likable. Right. I always find it kind of, it's weird. So I think appreciating that and just kind of looking at it and going, well, yes, different strokes for different folks.
Sure.
I was thinking like the two big ones for me is charm and charisma. People are either charming or charismatic. So if like the big examples would be, let's take Trump and Obama, right? Obama is incredibly charming.
Like shockingly so.
The head is to one side, speech pattern. He's about 92
slow.
beats a minute.
Yeah.
It's like he's got this really lovely way about him. It's I come to you. I'll explain it. Trump is incredibly charismatic.
He is.
Now, I'm not a huge fan of Trump, but you can't take it away. And they're both funny. And he's you come to me. And it's a very different energy. And I think most comics, you could put them in either one of those categories. And whatever category you're in, you desperately want to be in the other one.
Of course.
I've got zero charm, no warmth whatsoever. And I look at these charming motherfuckers on stage and go, oh my God, must be so easy.
But your charisma's through the roof.
Well, yeah, it's that thing of like the jokes and what you bring. It's different. I mean, I suppose the other analogy would be Angelina Jolie and Rachel from Friends.
Who's Trump and who's
Angelina
Obama?
Jolie is all charisma.
Yeah.
You want to put her on a pedestal, literally.
Yeah.
And, Rachel's incredibly charming. Like, you think she is your friend.
So Rachel from Friends is Obama.
Yeah.
And Angelina Jolie is Trump.
Yeah.
That sounds right. What kind of who would Trump have been in the stand-up comedy world? What kind of comic would Trump have been? Like, let's just say Trump and Obama are stand-up comics.
I mean, the Dice Clay is too obvious.
Yeah.
It just feels like that's...
It's on the nose.
It's right there.
Sure.
It's interesting. I think... I don't know.
Who would Trump be if it was a re-embodiment? If it was almost like a reincarnation?
Well, it's interesting. I think Obama is Chappelle. I think it's like it's charm to a ludicrous degree.
Yeah.
And then for me, I think charisma-wise, I don't know. Charisma-wise,
who's got it like that?
You'd go a long way to find someone better than Chris Rock in the charisma stakes.
Sure.
And it's interesting. I did the double-header gigs with them in Amsterdam, and it was really interesting watching. There's no wrong or right. There's no one better than anyone else. It's like very different stylistically.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, Chris Rock is the GOAT. For me, it's like
the GOAT for you, without a doubt.
The best writing, the best performance, the best.
Yeah.
I mean, just there's nothing I would change about it. I watch him, and it's like I go, I can't. Why do I even bother?
In here, we pour whiskey.
Hey, I've talked a lot on this show about Squarespace, about building a site, and I got to tell you, I use Squarespace because it worked so well for me. Because I don't know what I'm doing. When I went to go build my site, I had almost no clue about how to do almost anything, and they had it so simply laid out that it was almost mindless. They have member areas They make it easy for creators to monetize their content and expertise in a way that fits their brand. With member areas, you can unlock new revenue streams for your business and free up time in your schedule by selling access to gated content like videos, online courses, or newsletters. They have appointment scheduling, which is wonderful. You can schedule for classes or sessions, whatever you're doing right there on the Squarespace website. Clients can easily see your availability or reschedule if need be. They also have a video studio, which I think is really, really cool. If you're a creator, you can create pro-level videos effortlessly. Squarespace Video Studio app helps you make and share engaging videos to tell your story, grow your audience, and drive those sales. And my favorite is the analytics. Combined with the connected social media accounts, you're going to get analytics, insights to how to grow your business, learn where your site visits are coming from and sales are coming from to analyze which channels are most effective. I love this because it lets me know where you guys are and where I can go to do my next tour. So that's how we find out where you are and where I need to go. If you're looking to create a new site, go to squarespace.com/whiskey for a free trial. When you're ready to launch, use the offer code whiskey to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Squarespace.com/whiskey. Use that offer code whiskey. Save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Ginger. I like gingers.
It's such a good
So
feeling.
good.
But it's a good feeling. 'Cause
Yeah.
You're like, I love it. I love it. Look, I went to go see Dave and Donnell when they came here, and I was like, I don't know, it makes you proud in a weird way because you're like, this is great. Look
It's also, I
what
think,
we can do. Look at what happens.
I think this is very new. I think comedy's very new. I think, you can obviously trace it back much, much further. But really, when you look at, Carlin in America in the early, in early 70s, like going out, playing concert halls, not being on a bill, you just come out to see him on his own, like he's a band. It's quite a new thing. It's like 50 years old. Yeah. As a career, as a job, as something. I mean, there's nightclub comics before that, and I realize you can trace it back, but it feels like it's a recent thing. A very American kind of, it's like, what's America given the world? Well, it's, jazz and westerns, stand-up comedy. It's a real art form, and it's quite new. So it feels like the Mount Rushmore hasn't quite been
They're not done
decided
chiseling.
yet.
Yeah. They still got a couple of slots left.
It's exciting.
Yeah,
Well,
that is good.
Cosby's down. We've got to
They
redraw
took him down?
that.
Why did they take him down? Leave him up there.
It's a long story. You didn't hear?
I have no idea.
Someone who had the great joke in, oh God, I can't think of the guy's name. The New York comic had a great joke when the when the story broke.
You mean about
He went. It's he shit. It's he said. She said. She said.
She said. And then she said. And then she said. Yeah, who did that? I can't remember who said that.
This guy used to drive a cab. Great guy. Oh God, used to play Gotham all the time. Oh,
Give me the physical attributes.
more whiskey. But I like. You know what I used to like about drinking? A night in the pub would be trying to think of this comic's name.
Yeah.
Now with Google, everything.
Well, that's why I don't like looking on the phone. Just leave it. I like to let it live up to the.
It'll
And lie to me, and then we'll just guess. Maybe that's it as well.
Dave.
Oh, it was Dave. Yeah, Dave's good. Where did I see you? Where did we run into each other here in Melbourne, Australia?
In Russell Crowe's house?
Russell Crowe's house.
Yeah.
It's a weird place to run into another comic. To go back to what you were saying when you feel like when you're like, oh, a comedian.
Yeah, but I mean, it is that thing where you be at a big showbiz party or an event or whatever, and there's another comedian, it's like, oh, we don't know each other that well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to, hey, hi. We have to
We're going to be
connect.
friends? Great.
Well, also because I had no business being there. I was brought from another person, and not very nice of Russell to let us into his house. But it was just so strange and surreal to be there on the patio, getting high, and then I turned and you were there, and I was like, Jimmy Carr's here. And but it's like,
I get
of
everywhere.
course you're there. Of course you're there. By the way, one of the funniest moments of the night is, and I know he won't mind me saying this, but William H. Macy is there, and we're on the patio having like a in-depth conversation. He was speaking about rivers because, the waterway that runs through Melbourne, and he was talking about riverways, and we were talking about like when they grow dirty and how they become the color they become, and when they were clear prior, and what animals are able to create new ecosystems. And it's like kind of in depth, and I'm high and I'm listening, and then at some point he goes, the music is far too loud inside. I said, yeah, it is. And he goes, far too loud. And then he stared off into nothing, and that was the end of it. And I go, well, I'm going to go get another drink. It was like as if he was saying, I'm done talking.
I don't know if there's a volume of music where that level of river chat lights up a party.
It was he wanted to talk river talk. I talked river talk with William H. Macy. I was fine with it. I was just listening to everything he had.
It's
to
interesting.
say.
There is a level of marijuana that's like, yeah, that sounds like a fun chat.
I was nowhere near that level. I was way above it. I was at the point where I was like, I'm getting jittery. I'm gonna have to lie and say I have to go to the bathroom again for the third time, which I do. That's my out. By the way, if you're with me at a party and I have to go to the bathroom again, I'm trying to get out as fast as I can.
People know he has a cocaine problem, right?
Yeah, they do. They should. I wish I couldn't afford it. I can't afford cocaine. That's a very pricey drug. I would go for something a little bit more low to the ground. Easier to crack seems a little bit easier to get.
It seems to be crystal meth here is the popular thing.
In Melbourne?
Yeah, in Australia, yeah.
Oh, is it really?
I think like it's
Is that big
hard
down
to
here?
get
Crystal
drugs.
meth. Wow. So that's like the new. Is fentanyl good here? Fentanyl doesn't even know what fentanyl is. Behind the times.
Wow, loser.
Dork.
Loser.
Dork.
We're high right now. I think it's difficult to get drugs in here.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's a long way.
Well, we were smoking.
It's a logistical nightmare.
How does it get?
You really feel bad for the cartels going, wow, it's a lot of miles at sea.
I used to have a joke about that, about the guy that was like in the guy who did logistics for gangs, you know, that was doing like bullet counting, was like, you know, you do have to sign out when you take a new round of bullets, because they're like, listen, we've been spending way too much on ammunition. You really have to log in when you're taking bullets out
I
of
did a gig a couple of months ago. It was in New Zealand, and in January, and I was chatting to this guy in the front row. I said, "What do you do?" I said, "Is there any crime here?" And I think I went, "Oh yeah." And then he was talking about being in the Hells Angels, and he was in the Hells Angels, and he was like 60 pounds soaking wet. This tiny little skinny guy. Well, what do you do? The admin? And then he literally answered the question. He goes, "I do the imports and exports because we."
He logs it in.
Tell us. Yeah. It's a small town. What are you thinking? But someone must be.
That's why I used to say the bit was about, like, there had to be a guy who was who was the organization in the organized crime. There had to be the guy who's like.
It must be the same Al Qaeda as well. There must be someone go, guys. We need to come on. What are we doing?
Yeah, you're using a little bit too many bombs. It's just, the rocket launchers are fun, but we're not supposed to use them on Wednesdays and Thursdays. We talked about that. Slow down, boys. Slow down. There has to be one guy cracking the whip.
Yeah.
There's got to be one.
Roadside bombs are free? Oh.
You think these grow on trees? Can you imagine? That's another movie you and I should write. We should write about the guy who does inventory for Al Qaeda, for international terrorist organizations. It's up for hire. He just gets fired, and he's putting out his resume to the world. I'm looking for.
Apparently, that's why these things peter out. So you've got Al Qaeda, the guys join and whatever, and they're all the fighters, but they don't have any. The backroom bureaucracy isn't there, so really the governments shouldn't really go to war against them. It's just that, okay, that's going to peter out in about 4 years.
Right, this will fizzle away on its own. I was at a resort in Cancun doing a gig with Bobby. We were doing I think it was a Just for Laughs. It was like they first tried it last year, and we go to this resort in Cancun. And then everyone is like, you can hear everyone's getting a little like, did you hear what happened? Did you hear what happened? And 2 resorts up north of us, someone was shot and killed. And
again, Bobby
again,
number one suspect.
Always. And I said, what's going on? And they said, the woman that worked at the resort said, don't worry about it. No tourists were killed. And I was like, well, who got killed? What do you mean? Someone was killed.
I have to pretend to care about the locals.
Yeah.
Please.
Give me a
Please,
chance.
I'm an American
Give me a chance to show a little bit of heart.
Yeah.
And she says, the cartel, it's just somebody killing somebody on the inside. The cartel will know not to harass tourists because they want to keep the business going, because they control most of those resorts in Cancun. So they would
Someone told me an extraordinary story recently about Los Angeles. About when was the last time you heard about the Bloods and the Crips?
Long time.
And they said the cartels basically came in, cleaned house. I don't know whether that's true.
I think they're still there, but I think they've been more. I think they've gotten quieter. You know, I think they've gone to
They've mellowed.
Yeah, they're less. Their presence is down.
At what level of mellow do we try and sign up?
I'm not gonna lie. I never really, almost never. I'm not in for it. You and I aren't really built for it, as they say.
For thug life?
Yeah, it's not our thing. Although you could be.
What gang would have us?
What gang?
Thank God for comedy. What gang?
This
would
is the
have
gang
us?
we're in.
Yeah.
The gang we're in is of.
It's
I have to
interesting
make
you talk
fun
about
of
that, like the pride sometimes when you see other people's comedy specials, or you see, someone's show, and it blows your mind.
Yeah.
And there is that thing of like going, oh, we're in this group, we're in this kind of. There's a band of comedians.
It's really well. Neil Brennan said that he was like, "Do you think that this is common And I said, well, no. But he goes, imagine there's a couple hundred people that make a living doing this on the globe you sit on. A couple hundred at most.
He did the keynote at Just for Laughs. He did like a speech at Just for Laughs, and he made the point. He said, he looked it up. He Googled it. There's 50,000 brain surgeons in the world. Brain surgeons.
50,000.
50,000. How many guys would you trust to make a special? It's like, and the number is, depending on how bitchy and how many of these you've had, it's anywhere between 50 and 300.
At the most. Yeah, but that's true, though. It is right, though, to think, yeah, I guess this is extremely odd and rare.
I think it's just new. I think it's a new...
Very new, yeah.
It's a new sort of art form, way of doing theatre, way of speaking. And I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger. I think people really like it.
Where do you think... will you do comedy till they call you to go away and die?
Yeah.
You don't, but do you have an end out? Some people are like, I'd like to wrap it up at some point.
Yeah, no, I think no, I'm a real sort of journeyman. I'd like to die with my boots on. I think that'd be the way to go. It's also, I like the process. I like writing, and I like performing, like writing, like putting a show together. I like that performance, that idea that the high you get from that.
Yeah.
I mean, you get slightly. Someone told me something very interesting recently about performers' anxiety. They said the first night you do a new show, new play, you feel it like you're drive heaving at the side of the stage, and oh my God, can I do this? Can I do this? And you go out and you do it. You overcome that stage fright. Night 30, night 40 of the tour, or night 100 or 200 of the tour, you're chatting to the stagehands, you're hanging out, you're just taking it easy, right? Mm-hmm. So you'd imagine the level of anxiety is lower. It's exactly the same. We totally normalize the behavior because we know we adapt.
Right.
But the level of
like the chemical level is identical.
Chemical level, the anxiety inside is the same.
Wow.
It's crazy. So we pretend we're cool with it. Oh, I'm excited about the gig. But no, our bodies are like fight or flight every time.
What's the moment? Do you know the moment every time? Is it whether you step on stage, or is there maybe a ritualistic thing, the moment you settle into yourself before you go on stage, or is it when the first joke comes out?
On stage.
Yeah.
And different at different gigs. Billy Connolly, who's kind of our George Carlin, great comic, talks about toes and heels. Says so for the first half an hour of the gig, you're on your toes, or first 10 minutes. Sometimes the first joke, you're on your toes, right? High alert. And then at some stage, you're like, okay, these guys like me. They want to be here. This is all great. This is as it should be.
Yeah.
You never want to go out with that attitude.
No. Nobody, well.
It's got to be a bit of...
They feel it right away. The audience is so much more keen than anybody ever gives them credit for. They know so well. It's like when you tell a joke for the umpteenth time and you're kind of burnt out on it, but you feel sometimes as if, well, I'm giving it the same energy, I guess. But
no, I think
they
sometimes
can smell it.
No, it doesn't get the same. You have to remember what it was you were thinking when you wrote it, when it made you laugh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you do know right away that you're like, I'm not doing it justice because obviously I've done it enough where now it's maybe not my favorite thing to do. That's when I think I start to understand when to put it away. Either to utilize it for put it on a tape or a thing, or throw it in the trash. When I start to go, do I love it? I mean, it got good laughs sometimes, but maybe I didn't mean it enough for it to carry on.
Yeah, it's interesting. You come back to things, though. It's interesting, like if you put it away for a while and come back to it. I mean, I do think that discipline now, the world that we live in, Netflix, God love them, putting out all these comedy specials. It's such a brilliant discipline to go, right, and then I needed to write some new stuff. Because what would motivate you to? Like, people used to be in show business and if they were comics, they had 20 minutes of stuff. And that was all they needed.
Their whole career.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. You had 5 minutes, and I don't remember who it was, but they said they were touring on 5 to 7 minutes because they did The Tonight Show. It was a famous comic, and they were just rummaging around the country getting away with murder because they were like, I did The Tonight Show. I did Carson, and they thought, well, let's put him in a room. Yeah, but a room, I need to do 40 minutes. What was it? I couldn't do. So they were doing...
Wow.
They were doing their 5 minutes a few times, and then slowly but surely built it up. I think that was the beginnings of what a road dog became, where it's like, well, I guess you can build on the road, but you have to have a few tricks up your sleeve. You save a few little magic tricks. You know what I mean? You slot them in between, and then that's what the road dog became. Local material, speaking to people, and building these hours completely on the road, which it's a trick in of itself. That's That scares the shit out of me to go in with almost nothing and to go, I
do a thing now
figure it
where
out.
at the end of every show, I take out what I've written that day and just go, let's try some new stuff.
Yeah.
And it's quite nice because the show is often, it's quite bulletproof. Like when you're sort of, a couple of hundred dates into the tour, you really know what you're doing, performance-wise, you want it to be great and you want to build in some bits with the audience. But you know what's the outcome is. This is going to be a great show. They're going to, I always think of the show as the advert for next time.
All right.
They've already bought tickets. I could suck this evening. Who cares? It's next time. I'll be back in 2 years. I want them to buy another ticket.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, it is.
It's got to be good. It'll be the best night. And then trying new stuff at the end is quite nice because it's sort of letting them see behind the curtain of like, oh, sometimes he has thoughts that are not very funny. Okay. Great.
And right away, the moment you try something new and they kind of, and they peter out and you go, right, well, I've got to give it a whirl. There's no other time. I have to give you something. I gave you everything I've got. I've got to give you a little bit more. Sometimes I'll do audience interaction at the end in the same regard where I'll have a couple of things and I will lie by utilizing it during crowd work. Same kind of idea, but if I've written a few things, I'll try to interject it into a few crowd work moments to see how it fits and to see if it sticks.
I think it'd be more difficult with your delivery as well because it's so naturalistic.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm doing lines, like it's jokes. It's quite old school in a way. Like not that many people do it. Not many people go down that road of going, it's stand or fall a joke.
Yeah.
Tell a story. It's still a story, even if it doesn't get a laugh at the end. It still takes you somewhere.
Yeah.
On an emotional journey. If it's just a joke and it's a setup and a punchline, and then nothing, it's like, oh, that's.
Have you ever written with a metronome?
I try and go to 92 beats a minute.
You do.
Yeah.
Right on the just every time, pop, 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 just humming along.
I literally will play songs that are 92 beats a minute pre-show. I think that's where the cadence of comedy lives. I know I'm a weird train spotter, but.
And I knew you were autistic. I just needed validation for it.
Yeah. For reals.
It is impressive though that your rhythm is, yeah. I don't want to fucking blow you on the show because we do video. If it was just audio, it'd be fine. But you really do have such a great rhythm to the way you tell jokes. And it's almost like as a comic, I can almost see how you write it a little bit in a way where I can feel it, which a lot of guys I can't. I can't tell how Dave writes. I see him sometimes and I see what he does when he's kind of winging it or doing late nights and long drawn out trying stuff. Like at the store when he comes to the store, but I still don't really understand sometimes how his formula comes together. But yours is very old school and specific that I feel like when I see a good joke of yours, not only do I laugh because it's very good, but then I laugh because I go, man, I saw how he put that together in his mind and it's really...
Often reverse engineered. It's often the punchline came first.
Sure. Dave does that a lot, he says, right? He says he punchlines out and then tries to find other stuff. But yours is very rhythmic, though, right? Yours is very much like you slotted it where it belonged. You just wrote it back.
Sometimes a great phrase, isn't it? Like that. Sometimes the thing I love most about comedy is like a great turn of phrase in a show.
Yeah,
is enough for me. It's like along the way you pepper in a few things that are really sticky little phrases.
Do you put stuff in your phone? Do you during the day, do you do the phone thing or do you wait to get home to write as one big chunk?
Oh, no, I've never sat down to write stand-up. It's a constant.
Right. Because there's some guys I know that don't log.
You slightly move at a different speed on stage. Like your mind moves just quicker on stage. So you're more likely to come up with stuff. So I always note down anything I say on stage. Okay. Right.
Do you put stuff in your notes in your phone, the note app? Will you open it up and show me, say one thing that's in there that you found interesting?
One thing okay.
To recently.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you this.
I'll share mine, you share yours.
All right, this might be...
Because I've been note apping since I found out it was a thing.
In here, we pour whiskey.
This episode of Whiskey Ginger is brought to you by BetterHelp. Hey, I've been using BetterHelp for a long time. I've talked about it on here many a times. When you're at your best, you can do great things. Sometimes life gets you bogged down, no matter who you are, where you're from, what you are, where you're going, what you're doing. When you feel overwhelmed, it's like you're not showing up in the way that you want to. And a therapist can help get you there, okay? Therapy is wonderful. It can get you closer to the best version of yourself because when you feel empowered,
you're more prepared to take on everything that life throws at you. If you're thinking about giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. Here's why. It's convenient, affordable, flexible, and it's entirely done online. You do it from the comfort of your own home. Don't got to go anywhere. Don't got to leave your place and get in a car and drive to a location, trying to find parking. Nah. You don't have to do that. You just fill out a brief questionnaire online, get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. I benefited heavily from therapy, specifically doing it from home over the pandemic, but still can do it now because it's nice and convenient to not have to leave. And if you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. Visit BetterHelp.com/whiskey today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, BetterHelp.com/whiskey.
Ginger. I like gingers.
Okay, let's see here. What have I... This is not funny by any semblance.
Right.
Bill Withers was playing. Did you hear that? Could you guys hear that? Bill Withers' Grandma's Hands was playing on my...
Nice.
That's a great tune. Just playing in the background. This is not a joke, nor is it funny at all, but I did notice this walking around Melbourne. There is a lot of... I just wrote this down because I was like, talk about this to yourself when you're writing other jokes. There are many street performers all over the downtown Melbourne area, all leveling degrees of skill, right? Like, it's interesting. There was a woman that was singing that should have been inside of a concert hall. She was so good. I was a little shocked. Where most street performers in New York or in America, they're on the street.
How lucky are we that comedy is a thing? I always think that when I see someone juggling fire.
That's us.
Going, well, that's more skill. You put as many hours into that.
Right.
It's just no one. It's like the guy that's number one in the world at badminton. And you go, if it had been tennis, would have made so much money. Badminton, you have to work 3 jobs to pay for your shuttlecocks because it's not a thing. No one cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. We got lucky. We're in an industry where people care.
But it's also quite... I think it's impressive. Shuttlecocking is just not...
Well, I don't know. But I mean,
the
street performers... Sometimes we saw this thing at Cirque du Soleil once. We went to a Cirque du Soleil show, and they had these girls come in on 8 girls came in on unicycles, tall unicycles, really high.
Oh, the ones where yeah.
And then the girls started flicking their heads like this, and these silver pots flipped off their heads and onto their feet, and they caught them on their feet.
Yeah.
Whilst on unicycles, and then they were kicking them onto other girls' heads, and we were watching it, and we were in hysterics, me and my girl, because we were going, well. Did this start with the girls that kick the pots and someone went, we need unicycles? Or was it a unicycle troupe that went, we need an angle? We need something here.
Yeah. Get something to be able to... What's flippable? Pots? Good. Get one.
Okay. How long is this going to take? Well, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't mean we have to do it.
Last thing I wrote down was I'm an old dad. I've got kids now, but they're very young. And I wrote a bit the other day about my only hope of being a grandparent is teenage pregnancy. So I've written my birds and the bees talk with my daughter, which is, you want to hear it? Mm-hmm. Get some. Catch your dick, baby.
Oh, that's great.
The other thing I wrote down the other day was, because I went and played crazy golf with my son, which he called silly golf, which I thought was adorable.
Putt is what we call it.
Crazy golf.
Crazy golf.
But they can't call it crazy golf for long. It's going to be neurologically diverse golf.
Mm-hmm.
That's coming, isn't it? That's going to be in the next 6 months. Someone's going to go, whoa, we don't call it crazy anymore.
Don't say that word.
Yeah.
It's neurologically diverse.
The other game we've been playing in the hotel, me and my girls, dad or daddy issues at the breakfast buffet. You ever play that in a fancy hotel?
No.
So you go into the fancy hotel, you see a old guy, 50, 60 years of age, with a stunning 21-year-old. Daddy or daddy issues.
Oh, wow. That's
great fun at a resort.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't kiss his daughter like that.
Or, well, maybe he did, depending on what part of the country.
He wouldn't slap his daughter's ass like that.
Too hard.
That's constantly like thinking. That's
good.
And then I don't know what the hit rate is. I think the hit rate gets better as you progress as a comedian.
Yeah.
I think I've got a better hit rate than I used to, but it's still not great. It's still like most things you go, it's okay. And if it gets a laugh, but not a big laugh, you go, I'm never going to use it.
Then you find the other piece of it. Like you said, when you slot something into something, like I had said, because a guy said to me, like the first week I was here, he was mocking the idea that, Americans and guns, it's this old gun thing, of like, where's your gun then, mate? Like this thing. Oh, yeah, LA, where's your gun? And I was like, not all Americans own guns. That's such a silly idea. And I was like, what would I was like, what would emasculate the thought of guns more than the sound of guns? Because someone on set said, I'd never shoot a gun. And I said, they are very fun. It's when you shoot one and you feel it, the power is so overwhelming. You're like, holy shit. It does something to you. It turns you on a little bit as a human for some reason, because you know how deadly it is. But the noise is so loud, it's diminishing. It makes you feel so tiny, like a machine is so much stronger than you and better than you. I said the way that they could do it was emasculating gun sounds. Was like, if you shot instead of, if it was like, if you shot it and it made a like a coming sound.
Yeah.
You'd immediately emasculate this thing that Americans have as this prideful, like, oh, fucking take my AR-15.
Just simple pink.
Right, just pink, only pink guns.
Pink. Yes, anyone can buy a gun. Yes, there's no background checks. They're bright pink.
Bright pink.
Bright pink.
It says daddy in cursive on it.
Yeah, and they all have a picture of a unicorn on them. And they're collectible. Collect them all.
A gun trigger is attached. The other thing I wrote in was a gun trigger is attached to a device that is inside your asshole, and every time you shoot, it has to go deep inside your asshole and come like a corkscrew goes in your ass and comes back out. So it's either pleasure or pain, but either way.
And with the internet, I'm starting to think you are gay.
I am a little gay. Percentage. Well, what is it? The Kinsey scale. Everyone's got it.
Well, the Kinsey scale is interesting for me. I tried to write a thing the other day about if you're a guy and you wouldn't fuck Ryan Gosling, that's homophobic.
Yes.
That's actually homophobic. Come on.
Yeah.
Be reasonable.
Yeah. He's so good looking. Stop.
I find that
don't lead me down this path.
No. I find that a weird thing of like. I remember once meeting Brad Pitt and Jennifer and Angelina Jolie.
Obama.
At a thing.
Oh, I'm sorry, Trump.
I met them. So Angelina Jolie, one of the most attractive people I've ever. I mean, stunning looking woman. And I'm a totally straight guy. And then Brad Pitt, and I couldn't take my eyes off Brad Pitt because you so rarely see a man that attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing a girl that attractive, not that unusual. Girls are pretty beautiful.
Yeah.
They're a beautiful subset of humanity.
They figured it out.
But guys, seeing a guy that attractive, what have you done? Who are you?
And what is it? Why did they get that? And have you seen his parents?
No,
they're very average looking human beings. What tricks me out is why do very average looking people create sometimes the best looking people? It's rare that you see two extremely good looking parents have just as good looking of a child. Usually the child's fine, pretty, because good symmetrical features. But whenever you see a superstar, like an extremely handsome or sexy person, their parents are always okay.
I think it's that nature loves diversity. It's It's always something in the mix.
Right.
That's just the sweet sauce.
Were your parents good looking?
I think my mother was kind of an attractive.
Was a babe.
Woman, yeah.
Father was hideous.
No, an Irish man, head like a potato.
Hideous.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, I don't know, this sounds very Freudian. We should talk about being enmeshed and, yeah.
You did it, not me.
Sure. Sure. But it is that thing though, if you have a parent that's died, it's like that thing of like, they're kind of put on a pedestal and you kind of remember the best ever photo of them becomes the image.
But that's good though.
Yeah,
I think the brain does that I think the brain chemistry tricks us into feeling that way. You don't need that last fight or that last thing in your mind, so it wipes it away because you go, well, it's like that funeral scene in Curb. Was it Curb where everyone said such nice things, then it was over. The relief was off his shoulders when he was like, he was an asshole. He's like, he was a fucking why? Everyone was, he's so great, so great. And it's so funny because that's Larry's obvious sense of humor, but most of the time,
could never get that to work as a bit. I had an idea for a bit about someone going, he's in a bad mood. That guy's always in a bad mood. If you're in a bad mood all the time, you're an arsehole. There's a name for that.
Right.
You're an arsehole.
Yeah, you're an asshole. Yeah, it's not the universe. You did it. You did almost all of it. You created almost all your negative shit around you. And by continuing on, a piece of it is it's beneficial for your being a dick does give you payback because people start to treat you that way. So it validates why you're so angry all the time. You know what I mean? It gives them more resonance to be like, oh, this guy's a fucking asshole to me about the thing. Well, you were mean to him in the first place. But you don't notice it anymore because it's like when you're in a bad mood, your transference of negative energy, you don't understand it unless you saw yourself doing it on tape. Like has your girlfriend ever said to you, you should hear the way you say that to me sometimes. Something along that line of like, did you hear the way you just said that or how you talk? And I'll be like, how did I say it? But if you videotaped it, you would look at it and go,
Oh, yeah.
Good God, what?
Some
Why?
bass in that voice, yeah. It is a weird thing where you realize happiness is a decision that you make.
Right.
It's a very odd, because it's like you're responsible. It's not the world, it's you.
Yes.
It puts I like anything that puts that kind of, the control within you.
Right. You're way more in the cockpit than you think. Even though people would say, oh, well, then what if your life is in complete shambles and all the disarray? And it's like, right. It's not saying happiness is an easy choice, but you are making the choice.
You've only got to look at you can have all the money in the world and all the stuff and all the things and still be fairly chaotic.
Of course. Yeah. Well, that solves nothing. You still have to continue to make the choice. The way you greet, the way you treat. And the more you greet and treat people, the jaded you become, right? We meet a million people. This gentleman and the other people that worked here are wonderful people. And I consciously always have to go into things going, I meet a million people in the business in this world. And the more I learn to continue to check back in to meet and greet and treat of like, well, it's a new person. You want them to be happy around you, so be happy around them. But it's a job. It's a task. Not to say I was going to be mean, but you'd be... I don't know. It'd be nothing.
Yeah.
It'd be passive time.
It's easy to... Well, I also think you've got to realize how the world sees you. What was the thing you were saying at lunch about what your
dad
father
used to
said?
say?
It's a great phrase. What was it again?
And my dad said, you are who they say you are. You are who they say you are to them. That's what he used to say. You are who they say you are to them.
It's so great because it is that thing where you go, you can't really change the way the world sees you. Like I've got this English accent, so I think people assume you're a little bit standoffish. Like just going in, they sort of, oh, he's a bit. Actually, if you're at all friendly, they're kind of pleasantly surprised.
Well, Americans always think Brits. There's an American conception that British people are always smarter. They immediately think, well, that guy's very bright. We always think you're smart.
I mean, this is a really bad example.
Yeah.
Because
yeah, I went to state school, and you didn't even have to go to college.
You went to school, really? Come across.
Well, you spend 10 minutes watching anything I've ever done, and you go, this guy is a fucking moron that failed his way to the top. Totally okay with that. Joke's on who? Guys who went to Ivy League schools paid $400,000. I paid $60,000 over 4 years.
Can you get that back? Because I think...
Yeah, it isn't.
I think if you showed them...
What happened?
The podcast, the special.
Yeah.
I think if you showed them, I think they would say, look, we're going to refund the money. I don't think you got anything out of this experience. We can't in good conscience keep your money.
Well,
You've learned nothing. Nothing.
Did you go to college?
Yeah, of
Or
course.
university, as it were?
Yes, I'm bizarrely well educated.
Okay. Where did you go, fancy boy?
I went to Cambridge.
Yuck.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Terrible.
It is. Do you ever feel guilty for your privilege?
Not really, no. I'm like, it's a weird thing. I presume you are too.
Yeah.
Irish heritage. So Irish parents came over, so immigrants to England in the 1970s. It's not the same as, because we can pass very easily within half a generation. You've got the accent and you're at school and people think you're just one of the local kids. Mm-hmm. But I was always very aware of being Irish because in that stage, late 70s, early 80s, the IRA was really, they were blowing shit up.
Yeah.
And my mother and father had Irish accents and it was a bit, you weren't as welcome as, there were signs in windows, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish.
I know. Isn't that fun? Irish need not apply. That's what he used to say. Irish need not apply was a common phrase in Britain.
I would imagine they would, if you'd walked in even with an American accent, they would have gone, but something doesn't fit here.
Right. And also, there's a double no for them, a redhead and an American. They'd be like, kill him right where he stands.
They would see an Irishman and never mind the accent. Yeah. Said drinking whiskey in the afternoon, a couple of Irish guys.
Well,
this is
cheers.
An absolute pleasure.
Yeah. This
is a great half idea for a show.
Isn't it though?
How is this your job?
This is because I wanted it so. I said, how can I have fun?
Like I don't believe in
drink with friends and talk.
Yeah, I don't believe in cosmic ordering, but this is as close as anyone's got to going, what if I just but really good whiskey? Yeah. And that is a remarkable.
It's very good.
We're not paid by these people, but
no.
But if they want to send us a case, Jesus, please.
A couple of them would be nice. Yeah. No, how do you feel being in Australia about their reception of you? Because, not to get into the history, but we will. Do you feel like certain people here still are about Brits?
Yeah, I think most people would know that I was Irish, so I think there would be.
But you don't sound like them.
More sinned against than sinned.
Right.
You can always play that card. I don't know. I think I think we're rewriting the world now. Like it's all we're trying to make sense of our history for the first time in history. We're kind of going, well, should we have done that? Should that have happened?
Yeah.
And we're talking about it. And it seems that I'm a big Steven Pinker fan. I'm a big fan of that. You know, the guy that did Better Angels of Our Nature and Enlightenment Now. These books about how by any metric you can measure the world by, the world is a better place now than it was 20 years ago. Of course. So there's less violence in the world. There's less violence against women. There's less racism. It's still awful. You always have to make the point. It's still awful out there. Terrible things are happening. But it's better than it was. We're making some progress.
Yeah. That's how I feel about whenever we get critical. I do think we're very critical of American culture and all of our shit. And I always go, we are, I would say a lot of us are trying for what it's worth. Yeah. I think a lot of people are trying to be like, well, let's change a little bit.
Okay, well, I'll start up the time machine. Where you want to go back to?
Yeah.
Where do you want to go back to? Because honestly, I wrote a joke about the new Doctor Who is a black guy, right? And it's great.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that TARDIS better be set for the future. Because anywhere you go in the past, race is shit show.
Right.
I mean, it's so bad, so recently.
Will they say that about us now in 50 years?
Well, of course, there'll be more progress, and it'll be something we don't even see now.
That's what I'm saying. It is interesting. They'll go 2023, racist shit show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They will, whether we know it or not. It will just become
whatever the
thing is. I don't mean whatever the thing is. Yeah. But that's you're right though. We are rewriting it. I think that's
we're going to get cancelled in the future for this conversation.
Sure.
We don't even know what bit of it.
I got a couple of guesses.
Okay.
I've got 2 or 3. You're waving us out. He wants to kick us out. Okay. Well, let me say this. It's been an absolute pleasure to be down under with you. I wish we could talk for another 4 hours, but you have 2 shows to go to.
I think if we'd done this, we should do this again late night.
I know. I would love to.
I mean, this is a phenomenal company, phenomenal whiskey. Thank you very much.
We can do it again and again in the future, down the road.
Great. Thank you.
Cheers to you. Thank you. Please, everyone at home, go see Jimmy. He's on tour for the rest of his life. He's not allowed to get off tour. JimmyCarr.com.
This is America. I'm coming in.
JimmyCarr.com.
Yeah.
Are you coming to LA?
Yeah.
When are you going to be there?
I don't know. Someone else is making that decision, but yeah.
God bless. When you do, come say hi.
Yeah.
I got a little thing for you. JimmyCarr.com I imagine is what it is.
Yeah.
If it's not, it doesn't matter. You'll find it on the internet. Go see him live now. We end the show the same way, with one word or one phrase. It used to be a word, and people got overwhelmed by one word. They were like, I don't want to end on one word. So if you have a phrase, a phrase of wisdom or something like that, into your single, into your camera, give us one word or one phrase to end the episode. This will be in the Smithsonian one day, so do be conscious of that. When you're ready, go ahead.
Oh, it's a big.
And I can talk for another second to give you some space about what Jimmy Carr thinks about when he's going to finish a show. But one word or one phrase to cap us out, to take us home. You beautiful Irish prince.
Fuck the begrudges.
In here, we pour whisk, 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 whisk.
Oh, that creature in the ginger beard.
Sturdy and ginger.
Like vampires, the ginger gene is a curse.
Gingers are beautiful.
You owe me $5 for the whiskey and $75 for the horse.
Gingers? Oh, hell no.
This whiskey is excellent.
Ginger. I like gingers.